What's going on, everybody? Welcome. Happy Saturday. Welcome to another episode of We Need to Talk. This is episode 417. Sending out blessings and positive energy to everybody who's tuning in. Everybody enjoying their weekend. Everybody relaxing, taking care of themselves. Please continue that energy. Please keep the vibes as high as possible. Um, keep up the self-care. Keep that consistent as possible. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of different people going through it. So I just want to say, from my heart to yours, stay encouraged, stay blessed, and stay in your positive zone. Um, Tonight I wanted to talk about the psychological effects of divorce. Shout out to Sean. How you doing? Good to see you down there. What's up? Tonight is about the psychological effects of divorce. And I want to touch on the effects on the adults and the effects on children as well. Because, I believe that both are important and both are impactful and both need to be discussed because there are psychological effects that can be lasting on both sides of the coin. And it becomes full circle when we ourselves are products of divorce or children of divorce and eventually become divorced in a situation where there may be children involved. So we want to highlight the different elements of the process of full circle so that we all have the right idea of, number one, identification and validation for those of us who've been through it, but also some awareness on what's going on behind the children's eyes, what's going on in their minds, in the backgrounds, because a lot of times children aren't in a place where they can properly process, aren't in a place where they can properly express themselves. We want to make sure they're taken care of as well, and that they are understood. Because a lot of times, if we go through a divorce, there may not be a lot of time per se and a lot of ability or energy to cater to their needs, especially if those needs aren't communicated because of them being children at a certain age. So real quick, shout out to everybody in the room. I saw Sean in here. What's up, Dawn? When we're black. What's going on, y'all? Blessings. Saturday. Hopefully y'all in a good space. See my Hampton shirt on. Real HU vibes tonight. Everything is beautiful. Anybody from Howard, don't bother coming through. We don't need your energy. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm not. Rivalry forever. So tonight, let's begin with the adults. So maybe you're somebody who has gone through a divorce and have felt some of the effects, maybe some known, some unknown. Psychologically, if we are going as far as getting a divorce, maybe it was your decision, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's a culmination of a very tumultuous relationship. Maybe the last straw of some craziness, very chaotic, very toxic, very conflictual. Other times, it may be just a gradual fizzling of the connection. Maybe a realization that after the newlywed phase, you really aren't meant to be together. There's just no spark, no connection. Maybe a gradual distancing, maybe some infidelity due to the distancing, right? Maybe some faulty coping, etc. Maybe some tragic events drove a wedge, irreconcilable in that fashion, right? Who knows? But here are some of the effects that can occur. Now, one is you can doubt your own ability to maintain a relationship. The idea or the set of thoughts can arise that make you feel that you cannot choose properly, that you are maybe defective, or there's something about you that has failed in connecting yourself with the right person. Maybe there's guilt that you brought a certain person around, and now there's children that have had to suffer the effects of the toxicity of the person that you chose. So there's this heightened sense of responsibility, yet there's a feeling of self-doubt as far as the ability to choose properly. And that can be difficult that's a heavy cross to carry. And as well as that, just the general failure of the relationship. Now, a failure of a relationship, and from a balanced perspective, can be a good thing or a bad thing. But it doesn't always mean it's a bad thing. So I think a lot of times when we bring in, religion into the game, or we bring in strict, hard rules around certain things, where there may be shame, there may be, ill feelings or perspectives on certain things, it may cause you to be in a place where where even by virtue of you peacefully leaving something that is harming you or that is toxic, there's shame attached to even looking out for yourself. Now look how destructive that is. Something you realize the relationship is bad. It's bad for you. It's abusive. It's negative. It's toxic. It's incongruent with your agenda, your goals, your emerging self, your growing self, right? So in self-preservation, you end it. But now you should feel bad for ending it, which actually means you should feel bad for looking out for yourself. You see why it's so hard for a lot of us to prioritize ourselves? We've been conditioned to put ourselves last, and even shamed to do what's right for us in certain cases. That creates a more emotionally difficult space coming out of divorce. Now, let's also talk about that's just in peacefully. That's just leaving peacefully. Let's say that there's proceedings, there's money, there's back and forth, there's motions, there's all kind of, one of those nasty ones that you see on Tyler Perry films or some kind of premium channel with Lifetime, where you just see we just in court, back to back. It's just the OJ trial. We're here for 9-10 months because of the malicious intent or the tit for tat, the back and forth, the Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I'm gonna get you because you tried to get me. Now look at the stress levels with that. Now we got the shame, we got the failure, we got whatever abuse was there, we got the toxicity. Then we have all of these retaliatory interactions still going on back and forth. Much more is custody. If you got a custody battle, I'm somebody, wanting the kids, not for the sake of having them, but, and taking care of them, but for the sake of, because you want them and because you don't want me to have them. Now we got kids as a pawn in the game, and, you may be subjected to certain rulings that don't go in your favor. Lawyers, money, time, anxiety, much less to worry about how you're going to repair yourself, because this requires a lot of focus and a lot of energy, because you're focused on, ending the marriage and everything that takes. And then you're focused on, if there's kids involved, you're focusing on, the kids, good, the structure and the visitation and the scheduling, and, so whole time you just a blank face. You taking care of this, boom, boom, bang. and lost, done. You're not even able to really get into a place where you can focus on repairing yourself from this type of process. And let's talk about adjustments. Married life looks a certain way. Now, all partners are different, so I'm not gonna say all marriages look like this, but to go from the adjustment of the day-to-day, the everyday, the companionship, the help, the financial support, the love that's shared, right? The routines, everything has a certain flow, and then it doesn't. And you have to fulfill certain emotional needs by yourself and worry about any children that are involved in the process. And a lot of times you get pushed to the background. And this can cause the emotional roller coaster, the depression, the stress, the anxiety, and also what I call tense hopping, right? So we feel like the present is too painful, too much going on, too much shifts, too much emotion. So because of how everything is going right now in the present, we bounce to the past for help. And it's no good there, because reminiscing on time when times were better, or regretting even meeting the person to begin with, you can go all over the place. That, coupled with the bleak projection of the future, by yourself, no, not getting a partner again, who gonna want me after this, right? I got this many kids, this is happening, I'm single, I'm trying to, and then how do I even know that I could even choose that person if they were standing right in front of me? I chose the last person, that didn't work out, right? So those fear-based calculations of your future, and you projecting darkness in the front, experiencing chaos in the present, and having your past be a negative reminder of what you've done and what you wish you would have had, but that you don't have now. And that being jumping from frying pan to frying pan, walking on hot coals with no ability to step on the cool grass at any point, because every tent has issues, every tent has darkness. There's heat no matter where you go. That is a almost an existential crisis. That's something that's very difficult to withstand and process. And what's more, if you have children, you may not feel like you got the time to crumble and break down, because somebody got to eat dinner in 30 minutes. Somebody need help with their homework. You gonna break down? I got multiplication tonight. You can't be crying and shit. Somebody need a bath. You see what I'm saying? So that culmination, man, it can be very difficult, and it can last, because when I say lasting, because of what you went through, you don't want the children to go through the same, or you don't want them to be impacted. So you focus so much on them that you become a shell of yourself, and you compartmentalize too much into these back rooms, right? Think of a house, you putting everything in the attic. Everything in the attic. We ain't got time to go through that. Just get in the attic. But at some point, when you reach a clearing, and that stuff has been in the attic for a certain period of time, the smell, the weight, the pressure of what has been stuffed in that attic is going to come to light, and it's going to have an effect on that structure, because it has to be unpacked, it has to be dealt with. especially if there's the desire to be successful at it a different time. Because divorce does a couple of things to people. Some people, it's like, I just gotta chill. And then other people, it's like, I'm trying to get back in the game. Like now. And both valid feelings, right? Both valid spaces to be in. However, it don't change the fact that you got to go upstairs to that attic and proceed with caution, because there's a lot of stuff y'all done stuffed it. There's a lot of stuff up there. You know, we got to unpack that. Got to work through that. You know, when you find that clearing, and not just as a job, right? Not just okay, something else you gotta do. This is for you. You ever heard of a detox? That can happen with emotions too. That can happen with thought processes too. In essence, if you want to categorize what I do, part of what I do is that mental and emotional detox, right? Just as important as a physical detox is. All those cracks and crevices and small intestines and colon, you think it ain't stuff in there from the 90s? You playing with yourself. You know what I'm saying? This is not a game. And when it's time, it is a job or a task, but it's a task for you. You've been looking out for the kids. You've been looking out for the structure, the provision, making sure that everything is taken care of and handled and being reliable and dependable for the ones that count, right? And that's admirable. But can't run away from yourself forever. And what's more important is that you deserve to have that cleansing and that day plus however many days it takes. But your day in the sunshine, meaning your time to go back in and redecorate. So you're going up there not to just unpack boxes, but you're throwing away some stuff that need to get the hell up out of there, and you're redecorating the space. You're controlling the space. You're providing the nurturing, the encouragement, the acknowledgement, right? But also redefining where you want to go, getting your identity assessed and brought back to wholeness, right? Because like it or not, you are different after. For all my supermen, superwomen out here, you are different after. So we have to keep that in mind. We are not the same people. That's not, you put a value judgment on it, but I mean, you learned a lot, you gained a lot, you showed a lot of virtues and character traits to get yourself to a certain point, but we want to make sure there's nothing operating in that background, because if we keep all of that stuff I told you, all of that stress, guilt, shame, anxiety, fear, depression, all of this stuff bundled into one, all those chaotic times, all those traumatic time frames, abuse, etc., toxicity, right? It goes somewhere and it operates in the background, whether that's keeping you guarded, not trusting, just overly secluded, whether that keeps you isolated, whether that pushes you into other toxic scenarios for the sake of companionship, because there's voids created. We got to clean that out. We got to get that out of there, because it's only a failure if you let it defeat you. If you know you are worthy of marriage and you know you want that for yourself, then make sure that you're in a space to choose properly, feel whole and secure, and to be able to maintain it if it's meant to go the distance, So let's talk about the kids, right? So children of divorce, especially if they're young, because there's effects at any ages. We all know some of the parents who tried to wait till the kids went to college and then divorced and was thinking that wouldn't affect nothing. That affects something. And you'd be surprised where the bigger impacts are, especially if we're talking college age. If your parents were divorced and you were in college, what's college age? That's like what, 18 to like 21, 22, right? That you do the most changing, the most maturity and growth and the transformation into adulthood. That's the biggest range right there. So if there's any point that a young person is looking to their parents and their marriage, their connection, their businesses or their structure, because they're looking to repeat it soon. So they need that structure to be there, and not to put any guilt or shame in anybody's space or anything like that. But if we're looking at it like that, the time frame in their development when they're looking to the parental unit, and then that unit shatters or splits, can have a major effect. Because now they're at the age where they're forming these relationships. They're forming these connections romantically that are meant to mimic the relationship and the marriage they came in under. They're looking to duplicate. And if right at that point, when they're really looking at you the most, and then that thing breaks, it'd be very confusing and have an impact. Not to say you shouldn't do it, but let's talk about young kids, right? Now, if we're talking about young children, I'll tell you what's up. Good to see you. If we're thinking about young children, they don't have the ability. Let's talk about just the psyche, right? So young children, human nature, very much. Nancy, what's up? Very much. Young kids are impressionable, but they are self-centered by nature, right? And you may have heard me talk about this before. It's part of the survival mechanism. Kids need to be heard, crying, especially if they get abandoned or something like that. You hear a kid crying, that signals with adults. They run to go help. They want to, check on the kid and things like that. So that's a means of survival, being self-centered, having the capacity to get their needs met, even when they're pre-verbal. Now, the double-edged sword in that is when a divorce happens, a lot of times kids blame themselves for the divorce. Because again, they're self-centered. So that goes both ways. So they can blame themselves. It can affect their school. It can affect their abilities or their efforts when it comes to schooling, academics, as well as social interactions, social activities. We're talking depression, we're talking anxiety, things like that. We're talking lower self-esteem as well. So in this space, we need to realize that how they internalize it is a lot deeper than especially if we're looking at the structure, right? Who's the most reliable? If you have a child in a married environment, so you and your partner are together, right? And then the child gets used to that. Then there's a divorce. That's a crumbling of their structure because you're the most reliable, you're the most dependable, the most loyal. The individuals that are the architects of their life, their security, their home, their headquarters, their guidance, support, and things like that. So when the structure fails, plus the compound issue of that divorce leading to a distancing of one of the parents. So all divorces don't happen clean, right? It might have been all good when y'all was together. Well, not all good if y'all got divorced, but if y'all were in the same home together with the child is used to that, then there's a divorce, and then now the relationship with one of the parents, whichever one I guess moved or didn't have the full custody or whatever the case is, now that every day turns into every weekend, every other weekend, or some sporadic time, especially if that partner ended up creating a new family, dating somebody different, and prioritizing that new family. So now you have a child whose structure has shattered, and it resulted in them losing the connection with that other partner. And it goes down, it goes down, and it's very much compounded, just like I talked about with the adults. All the adults who went through divorce, you see how compound all of the emotional turmoil is, and you see with the child it's the same way, but it's a little bit different and a little bit heightened because of the dependence. You know, if you're in your 20s, you're in your 30s, you're in your 40s, you're getting a divorce, there might be some level of dependence emotionally, maybe financially, but you can kind of work that out because you're in the adult range. If you're a kid, you don't have that. So now everything becomes a little bit more scary, right? So then you might have, you know, situations where there's nightmares. You might be a little bit shook, a little bit insecure, a little bit low self-esteem, right? You walking around like, what the hell is going on? And not feeling a sense of control, but rather feeling like you're out of control, feeling like life is kind of swept out from under you. And Erica, what's up? What's up? So in that sense, that can be a big part of your worldview. You know, this is when worldview, if we're talking those young ages, that's when the worldview gets created. So you carry this anxiety into your regular life. And you may think you're adapting to it, you may think but that thing is still there, and here's when it gets triggered. It may lie dormant in some situations, other situations it may make it really hard for you, you know, but it gets triggered when there's a love situation. So that could be friendships, people you got love for, and then that insecurity and all of that stuff starts coming out. Or in the dating space. So if we're talking about kids may have the added effect of not thinking or not feeling capable of creating or having long-term relationships later in life, because that divorce is a timestamp. It's a reference point, because we draw a lot of our pictures of ourselves from the parents, right? So if our parents couldn't get it together, if our parents couldn't hold it together, if our parents couldn't choose right, if our parents couldn't keep the family together, what the hell chance do I have at creating a blissful, healthy, long-lasting romantic relationship with somebody? Now, you don't have to say that or even think that consciously to believe that back here. You could have never verbalized those words before. But that's why, you know, fear can be so deceptive, because it operates in the background. You don't be halfway conscious of this stuff, but you maneuver in those fashions. What do I mean by that? You date people that subconsciously you know that shit ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work. You date people that you know subconsciously it's gonna be a failed scenario. It's gonna be a failed scenario. Self-fulfilling prophecy, right? How many of y'all in the comments, y'all here in the live, y'all ever dated somebody where after it's over, you like, damn, I kind of knew that was an L from the beginning, right? That hindsight 2020 vibe. There's a reason you did that. There's a reason you did that. You mistook those red flags for green, and you made it happen. Because why? Because it was easy to do. There was an ease. It was an ease of connectivity, because that's your script, your storyline. It fit your storyline. When did the storyline start? Right at that divorce. Right when that divorce happened. So I would just say, if anybody, divorced, has kids in the mix of a divorce and things like that, a lot of times you don't have all the control, because you can only control your side of it and things like that. But I would say just anybody, try to make the process as seamless as possible, and try to keep the communication high, because when it and I'm talking about with the kids and stuff like that, because number one, the shock of a situation like that, and then a lack or lowered communication after, as far as the debriefing phase, and sometimes they can feel like they're getting swept under the rug, or like that nobody's really in tune like that. And I do want to make a point to let you know that it's a difficult process, right? Because sometimes you may feel like you talked to them, you may feel like you checked in with them, right? But I believe in proportions. If there is a shocking, in most cases traumatic change or shift or adjustment, right? Now, you might not look at it like that. Some of us are tough. Some of us like, all right, get that motherfucker out of here then. You know what I mean? Are we divorced or whatever? You might be game ready but that don't mean the kids is battle tested like that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, viewing it in a way where, it's viewed as impactful and as important as it is, because a lot of times it may take a broadcast like this, because 5-year-olds can't talk like this. 5-year-olds can't verbalize a lot of this stuff. You're just gonna see it manifest in a lot of their behaviors. You're gonna just see the school messing up in stuff that they were good at before. Now they not. You see them. Okay, now you were focusing. Now you're not. And this is largely due to the emotional toll and the lack of security. You don't know what's going on at home. You mess around, 5, 6 years old, you go to school, come back home, a divorce is popping. You think next week when you go to school, you might not want to even go home. You're like, who gonna be missing then? Who's next? Am I gonna go home to an empty spot? Like what? Like, so those are the things that can be troubling and keep the focus, keep the ability, suppress the ability to focus. That's just in school stuff, but they might not communicate as much, maybe some isolation, lack of, interest in social activities, things like that. So, making it a point, and here's where I want to, create a distinction, because number one, it may be necessary to get a third party involved, but that doesn't mean, that you may have to communicate your presence, your stability, your loyalty to them, your prioritizing of them, and work to fill in gaps, right? They may need therapy, they may need sports, they may need mentorship. They may, you judging on co-parenting situations, stuff like that, find some gaps. We got to fill those gaps in. They have to be filled, because this has to be as seamless a process as possible, because those needs don't change. And like I said, through the age development, kids are starting to need stuff, especially if the same sex parent is the one that divorced and left and then, was distanced. It's hard on the identity. It's hard on the focus. It's like, why did my likeness leave and distance and abandon and not there no more because my parents couldn't get it right, but then I still got mom. But then what is dad doing over there? What is that? What's wrong with me that he acting like that? You know what I'm saying? And so when we look at it like that, okay, he might be gone, he might be coming sporadic or not talking or whatever. We need structure, we need intervention, may need some male figures in some sort, whether it's a coach in sports or some mentorship or some sort, something. We got to keep this ball rolling. And we got to take care of ourselves in the process. Now, in essence, I'm talking prioritizing balance and prioritizing the self. Because if you don't prioritize you in the process, you'll crumble, and you won't be in the emotional space to be able to be a consistent source for those children who are a product of that divorce, right? So making sure that we are taken care of, that we have our needs met, is the greatest gift for the children under us, because then we have the capability, the energy, and the spark to ensure that they have what they need as well. So didn't mean to trigger anybody, didn't want to take anybody there, but I just wanted to really paint the picture and offer some support, some awareness, just some different levels of viewing the long-lasting effects and the potential to create certain cycles based on how certain things are handled, and to let you know that you have the right to prioritize yourself, because you went through it too. And that should take a backseat when you're actively taking care of the kids and engaging, but it should take the front seat in times outside of that, so that you can make sure that you get everything that you need for yourself, and you get to define that, and you get to go through a personal detox process or an elevation journey, whatever you want to call it, and that's just the vibe I try to provide with this broadcast. That's why I'm going so long, because this is a life process. This isn't if this had like 3 steps, it'd be 3 shows. It'd be 1, 2, 3. All right, good night. Y'all be blessed. I'll see y'all whenever I see you, type of thing, because it would be that easy. But this ain't fixing no car. This ain't, it ain't the alternator. It's a lot. But it's manageable, and you deserve to have the after effects of purging everything that's been toxic and that has led you into difficult situations, or choosing improperly, or choosing based on fear, etc. That's not long lasting. It's only long lasting if you ignore it or you expect it to heal on its own. But when you're proactively healing and growing, that's how you get it all together. So I'm proud of y'all. I see y'all, as you know. Y'all be acting like I'm psychic. I see y'all, as you already know. I got your back, and definitely be sure to subscribe, share the broadcast as well. And I got a lot of cool stuff coming for y'all pretty soon, so stay tuned. And I'll see y'all tomorrow night. Y'all be blessed.